So faith and practice go together. They go together a lot like an engine with a coal car. So let's join this message on the church at Ephesus in Revelation chapter 2.
That can kind of soften the blow that's coming, because Christ will then move into a word of condemnation. Now here's what he says: but I have this against you. I have this against you, Christ says. In other words, church at Ephesus, you're doing really well in these categories, but in this category, no. Now, Christ is honest with this church, and Christ will be honest with all 7 churches in the book of Revelation. And incidentally, any church in the United States or around the world can be found somewhere in these 7 churches. Somewhere. So now we've just taken a little bit of a blow, because Christ will say, I have this against you. You have abandoned the love you had at first. The love that you had at first. Now you have to understand something, that the Christian life is basically driven by 2 components, or 2 parts, if you want to look at it like an engine and a coal car. You have good, sound teaching, preaching, doctrine. Now it appears that the church at Ephesus, everything checks out. Good sound teaching, good sound doctrine. They were not worshipers of Artemis. They were not worshipers of Diana, which was the most popular thing in the city of Ephesus. That was the ingoing, the ongoing, the powerful, the most populated so-called church, a false church to a false god called Artemis in the Greek, or Diana in the Latin. So they check out pretty good as far as doctrine goes. But there's another component that does not square well with the living Christ. They are void of love for their first love. Now, different approaches are taken on that, and the approach I'm going to take is their love for Jesus Christ. Some say it's the love for one another, and that might be true, but I put the emphasis on the loss of the love for the person and work of Jesus Christ. They lost it. It's gone. It's not there. Now, there's nothing more terrible for a husband or a wife to hear these words from his spouse or her spouse: I don't love you anymore. Nothing more terrible. Now, that is what the church at Ephesus was saying to Jesus Christ. I don't love you anymore. Oh, I think, well, I've got the doctrine. We're not in the temple of Diana. But the devotional, emotional, heart component is gone. So you see, you have, say, like an engine car and you have a coal car. You have doctrine, correct thinking, doctrine, but you have love. Now, if you cut off the love, it's no good for a church. And I remember I took a train travel trip out to California from the Pittsburgh area, across the states, across the whole country. And at one point, we ran into trouble because the engine car was not producing electricity. And we had to get a new engine car. The only problem was the nearest engine car was about 9 hours away, and it was a freight engine car, which I thought was better than a regular passenger engine car, but my thinking was incorrect because freight engines are built for power, but passenger engines are built for speed. But we had to sit and wait about 9 hours disconnected from an engine, sitting helpless on tracks and praying that everybody notified the authorities, don't send a train down those tracks, because all the cars are there and all the people are there, but we're going nowhere. For about 8 or 9 hours until this freight engine could arrive and then take us later on into LA to get to California. But you see, it's the same thing in Ephesus. There's a disconnect. Yeah, all the cars are there, all the people are there, everything's right that way. But there's something that isn't there. And that's love for the Savior, Jesus Christ. You have abandoned your love. So he's diagnosing the church, and then he'll say, here's the solution. Remember. Don't you recall when you first fell in love with Jesus?
Okay, so you can see the analogy, trying to take the engine being correct doctrine and the coal car being practice. Both are needed. And the problem at the church at Ephesus was that the coal car was disconnected. Practice. They weren't practicing any love for God. Hence, they had a good engine, but not the coal car, and there would be no way you could have passengers on a train like that. Thank you for watching this video. This concludes the video.